Hello fellow simmers, it's Captain Pete here with another short, easy flight tutorial. Today we're going to do a quick circuit around an airport with the Headwind A330 free aircraft from fly-by-wire. Let's get started.
Oh boy.
So first we have to set up our flight management computer and also turn on our flight tablet, and then click to retrieve the flight plan that we have set up in SimBrief right here. We'll be taking off from Cape Town International Airport, runway 01, and we'll be landing back on runway 01. So first step is to click the init button and tell the aircraft which airport we are at and which runway we are at. So it's fact, and we will be landing back on fact. Next is our flight number. So let's use Headwind 1472, and there are 0 passengers. Our cost index is 60, and our altitude that we'll be using today is flight level 050, that's 5,000 feet. And there we have it. And on the top right you will see 2 arrows. This means that there are extra pages. So let's click the next page, and this page brings us to the weight of the aircraft. So by clicking on the orange boxes, we'll populate the weight of the aircraft and load that into the computer. Next step is to click flight plan. Click the top fact, departure 01, insert, and then bottom fact, which is arrival. Click on arrival, runway 01, and insert. And there you have it. Our flight plan has now been loaded into the flight management computer. So let's go up and have a look at what the flight plan looks like. Let's hit plan, zoom out a little, and you can see that the flight plan that the aircraft has generated is not quite the plan that we want. So let's put in our own waypoints. I know the airport quite well. Let's go back down to the computer and select our first waypoint, which is Nesic. And then the following waypoint, which is Atiro. Click that. Let's go back up and have a look. Zoom out a little bit more, and there you go. That flight plan looks a whole lot better. So it shows the circuit that we're going to do around the airport. We just need to create from Atiro a direct in path. So what we need to do is go back down to the flight management computer and remove the 1646, which was automatically created by the aircraft. Let's try that one more time. Clear 1646, clear discontinuity, and that's much better. So we're going up to Nesic, to Arterio, and then down to a direct in. Perfect. Next, let's click on the perf page. This brings us to the takeoff page, and we'll be using flaps 1. Our temperature at the airport at the moment is 10 degrees. So let's put that in. Our transition altitude is 6,000 feet. And next it's our takeoff speed. So V1 is 138, VR is 140, and V2 is 146. And click next. And next phase. And next phase. And now we are at the arrivals page. Our barrow is 160. That's 160 feet. And our temperature, of course, is 10 degrees. The QNH is this number right here. So QNH is 1013. And the wind speed, we will get that from the tablet. It's right there. And we punch that in as 30 at 6. So that means 30 degrees at 6 knots. And the altitude, of course, the transition altitude is 6,000 feet. And there we have it. Our flight management computer is now complete. The information has been added. And if you want to get back to the beginning of your flight plan, all you have to do is click the flight plan button. Let's now go ahead and set up the autopilot. So 5,000 feet is our altitude. Let's bring this back to ARC and zoom in a little. Now let's set up a few buttons for our takeoff. The lights have all been set automatically by the aircraft. Our speed brakes are armed. We are set for flaps 1. And let's get going. Let's set thrust to flex and take off. Let's wait for our takeoff speed, and that's coming up. So rotate. Positive rate of climb. Gear up. Let's hold about 15 degrees. And let's select the autopilot. Right now. And flaps up. And select climb on the thrust levers. The aircraft will now take all its information from the flight management computer. We will only intervene just before our top of descent. Our aircraft will maintain a speed of 250 knots, which is governed by law under 10,000 feet. Let's now set up a wing view. If you'd like to see my other video showing exactly how to get a wing view with just one click, I will leave a link in the description below. Or you can click on the link showing on the screen right now. So we're now approaching our first waypoint, which is Nesic. Let's now disarm the speed brakes.
ladies and gentlemen, once again from the flight deck, your captain speaking. We've just reached our cruising altitude for the flight. As we begin to settle in, I do want to remind you to please keep your feet and elbows clear from the aisle, as the flight attendants will be coming through the cabin with galley carts shortly. Also, one more reminder to please refrain from congregating near the front galley where the flight deck door is located. Thank you.
And Cape Town Airport is just here, so we'll be heading off to Atiro, which is our next waypoint, and then we'll make our turn and come straight in for a landing at the same runway that we took off from. This is our top of descent, the arrow pointing down. So at this particular point, we will set the aircraft to descend to 3,000 feet, and we will then set the aircraft up to intercept the ILS frequency, which is transmitted from the airport. This frequency right here, which will guide the aircraft in both laterally as well as vertically, which is called the glide slope, and will bring us straight onto the runway for touchdown. So the half diamond right here is the lateral navigation, and once that becomes a full diamond and starts shifting to the yellow line, we will then hit the localizer button. This will disengage all information coming from the flight management computer, and the aircraft will then follow all the information coming from the airport's landing instruments. This is referred to as an ILS landing or an instrument landing system. Now let's set our landing altitude as well as set up our auto brakes. And also let's once again arm our speed brakes. The speed brakes are these just above the flaps, and they will deploy the moment the wheels touch down. So we're getting pretty close to our top of descent, which is this arrow right here, and once we do, we'll then click the up arrow on this button, which we've just done, and that will cause the aircraft to start descending. Remember that the aircraft is still following all the instructions coming from the flight management computer. And we are waiting for that diamond to, or that half diamond to fill into a full diamond. And as you can see on that same display, that the vertical diamond has now been formed. There we are. And shortly we will be doing our final turn. This should activate the ILS system. Cape Town International just ahead. We're about to make our final turn. So once we make our final turn, we'll hit the approach button, and this will completely activate the ILS system.
Ryanair 28 Charlie from Papa 1, enter backtrack and line up runway 34, Abeam Alpha and wait.
From Papa 1, enter backtrack 34, Abeam Alpha and wait, Runner 28 Charlie.
So let's now activate the approach button. And we are now waiting for that lateral diamond to start approaching the yellow line in the middle. And there we go, the full diamond has been captured. And is now moving towards the center line, as well as the vertical diamond, which is now also moving towards its center line. Once they both line up, the aircraft is then set for the runway, which, as you can see, if you look just above, is dead ahead of us. And the aircraft will now follow airport instructions to the aircraft's navigational system. Let's now go ahead and select flaps 1. And once we reach about 200 knots, we will select flaps 2. Let's bring the gear down. Right now.
Line up runway 28, Abeam Echo 2, please, wait.
At flaps 2. Let's decrease our speed to landing speed, which is 140 knots. And flaps 3. And flaps full. Now just before the runway, a few hundred feet before the runway, we will disengage the autopilot and hand fly the aircraft onto the runway. And when we hear 30 feet or 40 feet, we will then pull back the throttle levers to engage reverse thrust, and that will assist to decrease the speed of the aircraft.
100 above.
So we are now hand flying, trying to hold that center line. By the way, if you want to see my video about holding the center line, kindly go down to the description. I will leave a link.
Retard. 5. Minimum.
A little bit of a crosswind. And disengage auto brakes. And welcome to Cape Town International. We'll now use this exit. And once we've reached the end of the off-ramp, we will clean up the aircraft. This means that we will retract the flaps and also retract the speed brake. So let's stop here and set the park brake. Retract the flaps and the speed brakes. Now let's go ahead and turn on the APU. This is a tiny jet engine in the rear of the aircraft that keeps the aircraft powered once we turn off the aircraft's main engines. So this aircraft will disappear the moment we start moving forward.
Ryanair 2, Mike Uniform, good morning. Line up runway 28 and be ready, please.
And there we are. Now let's continue to the boarding gate, and while we're doing that, let me chat to you about holding the center line while taxiing. I have a full video on it where I explain my easy method of tracking the center line. So I will leave a link in the description to let you see exactly how accurately we are on the center line. Let's go outside and have a look. Engage the park brake.
Ryanair 2, Mike Uniform, wind 2400 degrees, 7 knots, runway 28.
And there we are, my friends,
Takeoff.
right on the center line. So now let's continue to the gate.
Ryanair 2, Juliet Tango, line up runway 28 and wait, full length runway available.
Line up runway 28, Ryanair 2.
The international section of this airport is towards the right, so we'll take this right turn.
Ryanair 8 Whiskey Alpha, turn right onto Bravo taxiways, remain on frequency.
Vacation on the Bravo is located on
I'd like to stop right here so that I can give you a few extra easy tips. And before we do that, let's have a look outside. We are still on the center line. The other thing I'd like to discuss is getting to the correct terminal. If this was not set in pre-flight, the easiest way to do this is to look out for the catering truck. The catering truck is your indication of a free gate where most of the services should be waiting for you. So let's get moving.
Ryanair 8 Zulu Mike from Papa 1, enter backtrack and line up runway 34, Lima Alpha and wait.
Fire Papa 1, enter backtrack, line up runway 34 and section Alpha 8 Zulu Mike.
The next gate to our left should be the gate that we are looking for. So let's hang the nose over the line just a little and make our turn to the left.
Ryanair 8 Zulu Mike, you're ready for departure.
Roger, I'll call you back.
And there's our catering truck. We also see our cargo and baggage vehicles as well as the pushback vehicle. Now our parking guide is not always there. It's a bug in the sim. Sometimes he is there to guide us in and sometimes not. At the moment he's not, so we will have to go outside to do this. Let's just swing around. And we are just approaching so that the front wheels touches the end of the line. Right here, and that's pretty much it. Let's now hop back into the cockpit and engage the park brake. And as we now have the APU up and running, we can now go ahead and turn off the engines, engine 2, then engine 1. Next we can turn off all the lights. and release the passengers by turning off the seatbelt sign. And let's go outside again. And let's use pushback to bring up the jetway, the baggage, and the catering truck.
Liner 66 Charlie, Juliet, Roger, continue approach, wind 240 degrees 7 knots.
And there we go, my friends. I hope that this was helpful to you in some way. If it was, please kindly subscribe, give us a thumbs up.
Liner 10 Golf.
And until next time, my friends, goodbye.